Hey guys, it's me, Milhouse. My boy James is going to be out for a few weeks. So, in place of the Lost Hologram podcast, it's going to be me going over the trending shows, news, and questions we've gotten from our sponsor, Culture Slate. So, this week we're going to be talking about The Penguin and Agatha. When I first heard that they were going to do a Penguin series, I was very skeptical. I really didn't know how a spin-off would work, from the Batman universe, whether people would care about these characters, whether they would watch the show, whether it would be more of a bad thing than a good thing. But after the first episode, I was immediately hooked. Colin Farrell and Christian Milioti are doing an insane kind of job. I'm talking like Emmy level performances, and I know it's not that high in the ratings, but everybody who is watching it is saying that it's amazing. I think they've taken what's great about shows like Game of Thrones, The Sopranos, these really kind of adult shows, and brought it to the world of comic books. We've had shows, we've had more movies, like things like Watchmen, things like Logan, that are kind of more for adults, and they've done well. The rated R trending of movies is doing well. We just had Deadpool and Wolverine that made $1 billion. So I think more studios are taking risks with shows like The Penguin. I think that besides Christian Milioti and Colin Farrell, doing a great job, they kind of command a presence. You know what I mean? Like every scene they're in, it's like tense. Even though there's not action going on, you really want to know what's happening. You're interested in the background of these characters, what makes them who they are. And we've seen, just kind of the Penguin be, kind of goofy with Danny DeVito, more of just kind of a cartoon villain in the animated series and things like that. But you get a real sense of, who he is because of where he grew up, how he was treated, how people kind of make fun of him, and how that kind of fuel this desire to be this kind of villain that, we've seen. And, they've also taken a C-list character like Sofia Falcone and made her one of the most interesting villains we've seen in comic book history. We saw one of the best episodes in all of comic book shows, the best of the best in episode 4, Centani. We saw our real first glimpse into what Arkham was like. For the first couple episodes, I thought she was the Hangman. I thought, she was kind of a villain. And then you find out that she's, innocent and she didn't do anything, and you see what happens when an innocent person gets their freedom taken away and they become kind of like this animal that society creates. You kind of get this societal commentary just from a show like The Penguin, and it was really good. I really don't know what James Gunn's plans for the Reeves verse is, but it has to include more of this universe. The Batman was an insane start. It was an amazing start. They really built on like a dark Gotham and Batman in year 1, year 2. And now the show kind of just expands on that universe. And to only have, Batman 1, 2, and 3 and the Penguin, and that's it, would be a crime. It would be a crime. One of the best parts about the show is you really don't know where it's going. You're rooting for both characters. You want the Penguin to succeed. You want Sofia Falcone to succeed. And it kind of reminds me of what Game of Thrones was like when we first started watching in those first 5 seasons, where the writing was so strong, you don't know what's going to happen. You're rooting for almost both sides, and you're just excited every week to see it. In terms of predictions, I think a lot of people think that Victor's going to become Zaz, Victor Zaz. But I think Sophia's going to kill Victor because she's, she wants to get back at the Penguin, and the best way to do it is take away his, right-hand man. I'd be sad if that happened, but I kind of feel like it's going to happen. We're going to see, maybe in an extra scene or, towards the end, the villain that would eventually be in the Batman 2. Because I think like a good comic book universe, you don't need to see everything to kind of know what's going on, but it's an added bonus. So if we kind of see the connection between the Penguin and the Batman 2, it'll be a good thing. Now on the flip side with Marvel, we're watching Agatha all along. Now Agatha is kind of a sequel to WandaVision and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. In WandaVision, we saw kind of the story of what happened to Wanda after Civil War, after all that, where she kind of created magic to create her family, her friends, and her children most of all. And in Doctor Strange, we kind of saw what was like the direct sequel to that. Now, it was a little kind of messy with that because COVID kind of messed up with the order of things. So I think the writer of Doctor Strange didn't really get to see WandaVision. Whereas Wanda, she's a sympathetic character. In Doctor Strange, she's more of a villain. And that's kind of annoying, but, it is what it is sometimes in the comic world, and you kind of have to move forward. WandaVision, to me, was the bravest thing Marvel had done in years. They kind of took what was great about sitcom TV from the 50s to Leave It to Beaver to the more modern, Modern Family and The Office type formats, and kind of each week they went through the decades kind of showing what she was going through that. And it was really interesting to watch. It was really funny, and it was the bravest thing Marvel had done, but it kind of got a little convoluted at the end, because in the end it is, the Scarlet Witch, and you do need kind of the CGI mess that people complain about Marvel. And the villain, who ended up being Agatha, who was pretending to be her friend at first, kind of went head to head, and they're throwing magic at each other. And in the end, Wanda wins and imprisons Agatha in this kind of like prison of her mind, where she doesn't know, who she was. She just kind of thinks she's this, character in this town of Westview. In the next movie, Wanda became kind of obsessed with her kids that she lost at the end of WandaVision and started searching the multiverse for them. In Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, Wanda's more the villain, and in the end she kind of dies, and this releases her, or allows her to be released from the spell she's kind of in. So this new character, played by Joe Locke, simply referred to as Teen, comes to her house, steals something from her to kind of release her from the spell. At first, she's just kind of like this mean person, really. She's kind of just has this Catherine Hahn swag to her, but Teen kind of convinces her to go on this journey to the Witch's Road. She agrees because the Witch's Road basically gives you whatever you want. So this character, Teen, I think wants to know more information about himself, and Agatha craves for power. At the same time, she's being chased by Rio, the character played by Aubrey Plaza, and the Salem 7, and they basically want her dead. So she's forced to go on this journey. So she gathers the coven. Patti LuPone's part of there. I forget her name, but she played the mom on that 70s show. She was in WandaVision. She's there too. And a couple of other good actresses, and they all embark on this journey. After that, the format of the series kind of shifts towards every episode has, kind of a trial, and, someone kind of gets hurt or dies, but you kind of get a little more information about each character after that. They had a really fun, kind of song, kind of what went wrong with the Acolyte with the Power of One. They did really, really, really well with the Witch's Road. I think that's part of the genius of the show, is that, if you've watched Practical Magic, if you watch Hocus Pocus, or, The Craft, the show is right up your alley. It takes all the influences from those shows and does them in, tribute, to pop culture, and kind of sometimes in a meta way. This last episode was very Patti LuPone centric, and the one before that was a flashback of just Teen, so you kind of got a lot of information in those two episodes. It was kind of insane, actually, because you see the Hex ending, you see the character who Teen was, rather, kind of die, and then when he wakes up, he has amnesia, and he's more Billy, Wanda's kid, than anything. And for one, that's kind of confusing because, her kids were fake. How does this even happen? But, since there's magic involved, you kind of just take it with a grain of salt. And ever since then, he's kind of tried to figure out who he was. He became kind of obsessed with magic, and he eventually finds Agatha and is on this Witch's Road to find out what happened to probably his mom and most likely his brother Tommy. The next episode, honestly, it was very brave to do, because for one, Patti LuPone isn't, like a Marvel type, actress you'd see, you know what I mean? And she has a tremendous amount of skill on stage with singing, and they took her life because she's kind of like a seer, she can see things in the future, and they told the story out of order. The last scene of her death is, the first scene, and where she kind of begins her life is the last scene. And she kind of goes through this, kind of trying to help her coven. She does, she ends up like dying, sacrificing up to save everybody, and she takes out the Salem 7. But it's not so much how it happened, it's like how they did it. They have, Maleficent, they have Snow White, they have like the Wicked Witch of the East, they're all dressed as them. Just like in the previous episode, they were dressed as 70s characters, they were dressed as like the Stepford Wives, The attention to detail in pop culture and the way they're doing everything with music is amazing in this show. Same with the Penguin. You kind of don't know who you want to root for. Agatha is somewhat the villain, so you're like, I hope she gets her end, but you don't want her to lose Aubrey Plaza. You want Teen to kind of find Wanda, because I think a lot of people want Wanda back, and even though she's not necessary to this show, they kind of owe it to fans to be like, hey, listen, this is where we're going. She's not dead, she's coming back, maybe not just yet. With predictions in the show, it's going to be kind of hard, because you don't know with Marvel essentially how they're going to keep telling the story, because we watched Shang-Chi years and years ago. We haven't seen anything from that recently. So for one, things have to be successful for people to want more, and you kind of have to cater to the overall story. They're going towards Avengers Doomsday, they're heading towards Secret Wars, so things kind of have to fall into that. I think this show is really good. It's really brave. I like reference to LGBT culture, to the old witches, like I said, and I think dropping the last two episodes and dropping the first two episodes is good, because people kind of want it not to be over with, but I think they want the conclusion, because it's been going on for a while. So join us next week. I'm going to be doing these for the next episode of The Penguin, the next episode of Agatha, and as soon as my boy James is back, we're going to be back on The Lost Holocron. We usually do it at Thursdays at 7, but it's subject to change depending on how shows come out. I'm sure we'll talk about these too. I still have not played the Star Wars game he wants me to play, so don't tell him. But, join us. I'll be doing this next week, and if you have any questions, comments, throw them up here, and I'll talk about them. Remember to watch Culture Slate. We have a couple other podcasts, a couple other shorts that we do. Our website has the best news and pop culture entertainment from the week, so if you have any questions, you always download Culture Slate and ask the question, and we'll have the answers for you. My name is Milhouse. I'll see you next week.